Yes, Acharya.
Om Sadashiva Samarambham
Sadashiva-samaramභam
Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya.
So we have done 3 Upanishads so far. What are the names? I hope at least the names you can remember, if not all the content. So what are the names?
Mundaka Katho
Upanishad and Kaivalya Upanishad.
Yeah, Mundaka, Katho and Kaivalya. Okay.
Kevala.
Now these were the relatively easier Upanishads, and now we are going to do a Upanishad called Kena Upanishad, which is a very, very tiny Upanishad, but very profound. And in fact, it is so profound that Shankaracharya thought it fit to write not one Bhashyam, but 2 separate Bhashyams on it. So one is called the Pada Bhashyam, which means the word-to-word commentary, and one is called the Vakya Bhashyam, which means the sentence-by-sentence commentary. Most teachers, when they teach, will teach only Pada Bhashyam. So we will stick to that. In fact, there's a controversy about whether Shankaracharya would really have wasted his time on 2 Bhashyams, and therefore some people say no. Pada Bhashyam is his real commentary, and the other Vakya Bhashyam somebody else has written. All those things are there, but if you look at Gita Press publications, both the Bhashyams appear there. So we'll take it that he has written both the Bhashyams. But our commentary is based on the Pada Bhashyam only, on the word-to-word Bhashyam. Kena Upanishad belongs to the Samaveda. And like most Vedas, Samaveda has several branches. They are called Shakha. Shakha literally meaning a branch. And one of the branches is called Talavakar Shakha. Talavakar Shakha, because that branch is associated with a rishi, a sage called Talavakar. And Talavakar was a student, a Shishya of Jaimini. So Jaimini has written Jaimini Sutras. What does that deal with, Jaimini Sutras? Anybody? Jaimini's analysis is on what?
Mimamsa.
Mimamsa, what? Which one?
Purva Mimamsa.
Purvam.
So Jaimini has written basically a commentary on the Purva Veda. So it's the Purva Mimamsa, right? He was a Shishya of Vyasacharya, and Vyasacharya wrote the commentary on the Jnana Kanda, and Jaimini wrote the commentary on the Karma Kanda, thereby complementing each other. So anyway, Jaimini's Shishya is Talavakar, and in the Talavakar branch of the Samaveda, there is a section. Okay, before that, there are 4 sections to each Veda. What are they? All this you must know. You're all advanced students. Each Veda has 4 sections. What are they called?
Brahmanas, Aranyakas.
Yes.
The end is the Vedanta,
Yes.
and the
And
first
Samhita.
Samhitas. Okay, so there are 4 parts: Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. So these are 4 parts of every Veda, uniformly. And therefore, this Talavakar Brahmana is the Brahmana section of the Samaveda. Samaveda also has Samhita, Aranyas, and Upanishads, but this Talavakar Brahmana is a section of the Samaveda. Now, Talavakar Brahmana has 9 chapters. The first 8 of them deal with karma and upasana, and the 9th chapter deals with Upanishad. So from here you should know, what should you conclude from here? The Upanishads are not necessarily always found in the last part, but they are sometimes found in the end of the Brahmanas also. And therefore, at the end of this Talvakara Brahmana, which is the 9th chapter, this Kena Upanishad is found, and therefore it has another name, Talvakara Upanishad. So occasionally you will find in some references that somebody writes Talvakara Upanishad. So you shouldn't get confused and say, oh, what is that? It is nothing but Kena Upanishad. It is another name for Kena Upanishad. And it is called Kena. Why? Because the mantra, first mantra begins with Kena. And it is called Talavakar because it is contained in the last chapter, the 9th chapter of the Talavakar Brahmana belonging to Samaveda. Why was Mundaka called Mundaka Upanishad? Because the initial ritual was Shirovratam, carrying that pot of fire on the head. The student had to do that before he could start Mundaka. Therefore, it was called Mundaka Upanishad. Here it is called Kena Upanishad, basically because the word Kena is the first word of the first mantra. So each Upanishad gets a name due to different reasons. Now Mundaka, remember, was a mantra Upanishad. It was more rhythmic in nature. Kena is a Brahmana Upanishad because it's found in the Brahmana section. And like all Upanishads, in this Kena Upanishad also, there is a Shanti Patha. And the Shanti Patha, as you know, it depends upon which Veda the Upanishad belongs to. So all Vedas have one common Shanti Patha. Of course, some Vedas can have more than one Shanti Patha, but all Vedas will have one common Shanti Patha. And Samaveda, all Upanishads of the Samaveda have got this common Shanti Patha. So Pataha basically means the chanting, and Shanti Pataha means the mantra to be chanted for the sake of Shanti. And this Shanti is what you must very clearly remember, that though these Shanti mantras are popularly chanted saying that they will bring peace upon you, the purpose of the Shruti is very simple. That when you sit in front of the teacher for studying, what should happen? Your mind should be calm. And therefore, because to have that calm mind, you should not have any obstacles. And therefore, for temporary avoidance of these obstacles, the Shanti Patha is chanted. And here, and of course, Shanti Patha is chanted always by both the teacher and the student. And in this, usually we seek physical and mental health, number one. The necessary Shraddha in the Shastram and the teacher, number two. And the necessary qualifications for the study. So with this background, we'll enter into the Shanti Patha. So we will chant. Om Apyayantu Mamangani
Om Apyayantu Mamangani
Vak Prana Chakshushrotram
Prana
Atho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani
Atho bala indriyani cha sarvam
Atho Bala Indriyani Cha Sarvani
Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam
sarvam
Sarvam
Upanishadam
Brahmopanishadam
Maham Brahma Nirakuryam
Maham Brahma
Nirakuryam
Nirakuryam
Mama Brahma Nirakarot
Mama
Mama Brahma Nirakaro
Anirakaranamastu
Karanamastu
Anirakaranam me astu
Nirakaraname
tadatmani nirate.
तदात्मनि
तदात्मनि
निरते
निरते
Ya upanishadsu dharmaha.
य
य
उपनिषत्सु
उपनिषत्सु
धर्मः
Te mai santu, te mai santu.
ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि
सन्तु
सन्तु
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
ॐ शान्ति
शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Okay, I've just switched over to my mobile phone connection. Is this better? Because earlier on there was a
Yes,
lot of.
Acharya.
This is
Yes.
better, right? Okay, fine.
No break in this.
Raviji, we should probably add the fourth point to Shanti Pata benefits. Good Wi-Fi for us.
Yes, but you know,
Uh,
actually the ashram Wi-Fi is pretty good. I don't know why every time I use this class, it sort of hiccups. Maybe there's another class going on somewhere. If too many classes are going on, because ashram has a lot of online classes now, so maybe that's the reason why it's hiccuping. Anyway, so this is fine. Now, the student is asking for what? For Vigna Nivrittihi, removal of obstacles. And for all obstacles that face him in pursuing the study, they should be removed. So favorable factors are what? That number one, my health should be good, because without health, there can be no material progress or spiritual progress. Definitely, body is not the goal, but it is definitely the means to the goal. You have to remember that body may not be the end, but it is definitely a means to the end. Okay, so therefore, mama angani, my organs. Angani is plural for angam, so mama angani, my organs. Apyayantu, let them grow well, let them be vigorous, let them be healthy. And what are these anganis? Vak, pranaha, chakshuhu, shrotram. I don't think I need to explain that, right? Vak, pranaha, chakshuhu, shrotram are the anganis. And just to be safe, he says, sarvani indriyani, all the organs, atho balami cha, as well as my physical strength, ataha, and my physical strength should also be blessed. So this first part of the Shanti mantra is therefore a prayer for the healthy continuance of Sthula and Sukshma Shariram. And why is this prayer being offered? For the purpose of ensuring that I can do my Jnana Yoga, my Jnana Yajna. Hence, this prayer can be considered Nishkamartham, because anything which is asked for the purpose of spiritual practice, that we consider as Nishkama. Then there is second part of the prayer. That second part is the prayer saying that may I have faith in Brahman, both Saguna and Nirguna Brahman. And there is a third part of the prayer. May I have all the qualifications required for getting this knowledge. So sadhana chatushtha sampatti may I have. So he says Sarvam Brahma. What is this Brahman? That Brahman, Upanishadam. Upanishadam means which can be known only through the Upanishad. So that Brahman is not available for any pramanam excepting the Upanishad. The 5 pramanams which we have, they are not capable of grasping that Brahman. And remember that when you think of Brahman, people can think of universe also. So Brahman misunderstood can be said to be universe, and the correctly understood universe is not different from Brahman. And then he says, Ma aham brahma nirakuryam. So nirakuryam means rejection. Ma aham brahma ma nirakuryam. The ma here means no. So may I never reject that Brahman. May I never say that Brahman does not exist simply because I cannot perceive it. Simply because Brahman is Indriya Agocharam. Let me not say that Brahman is not there. Let me not reject Brahman. And let me complete the study. Then only I can know whether Brahman is there or not. So, because this prayer is given so that the normal tendency of rejecting what is not available for my sense organs does not come into play. Hence, here the Shishya says, please give me the wisdom not to fall into that particular trap of rejecting Brahman because I am not able to perceive using my Indriyas. Because Brahman is Indriya Agocharam. And therefore, the student says, let me have the understanding to understand that this is not possible, but that doesn't mean that Brahman is not there. So it just means I have not sufficiently understood, and that is why I'm undertaking the study. That having said, then there's ma brahma nirakarot. So nirakarot is also reject. So may Brahman not reject me. Now there are two mas, ma. Okay. So the first ma has two meanings. One is to reject, no, and one is me. So the first ma is may not. The second ma is me. So may I not reject Brahma. So there should be no rejection by me of Brahman, and Brahman should not reject me. And this is again stated for emphasis. Anirakaranam astu, anirakaranam me astu. May there be no rejection on my part, anirakaranam, and anirakaranam me. May there be no rejection of me by Brahman. So may I have devotion to the Lord, and may the Lord not have devotion to me. I'm not saying that. May the Lord be in a position to bless me. May He give me His blessings. And tad atmani nirate mai. With regard to tad atmani, that Brahman known as Atman, mai nirate. I am going to be a serious student of this knowledge. I am going to seriously pursue this knowledge of Brahman. Which Brahman? This Brahman which we are talking about. And Upanishatsu dharmaha ye. So here the word dharma means the qualifications for what? For Upanishatsu, for the study of the Upanishads. So may I have the necessary qualifications, Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti, Mokshatvam. May I have those qualifications which are necessary for me to study this Upanishad. And Te Mai Santu, may you bless me. May I have your grace. May I have your grace. May you bless me. May you bless me. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let there be no obstacles. Adhidaivaka, Adhibhutika, and Adhyatmika. May there no obstacles from any of these sources, from the Lord, from other people, and from my own self. So this is the Shanti Patha. Okay. Any questions on the Shanti Patha? It's a pretty simple Shanti Patha, and most of us who have been in TTC have been chanting it regularly. Otherwise, it's a good Shanti Patha to chant.
Raviji, can you just repeat what was dharma in the last line?
Dharma here means your sadhana chatushtayam.
Okay.
Your qualifications. Okay. Now, every Upanishad Bhashyam has a portion called Sambandha Bhashyam, the connecting Bhashyam. And normally in this Bhashyam, Shankara usually discusses his favorite Purvapakshis and tries to eliminate them. So here Shankara discusses a Purvapakshi called Jnana Karma Samuchchaya and gives logical reasons why Jnana Karma Samuchchaya is not the essential teaching of the Shruti. The Tatparyam of the Shruti is not Jnana Karma Samachaya. Okay. Now, before we go on that, we have discussed this earlier in Bhagavad Gita as well. So I would like to know what is Jnana Karma Samachaya. Anybody? Come. What is Jnana Karma Samachaya?
Is related to the belief that some schools have, in which karma, not knowledge alone, cannot give moksha. That it should be combined with karma to get moksha.
Yeah. So the argument these people make, the Purva-Pakshis who propagate Jnana Karma Samachaya, is that pure knowledge by itself is of no use. You have to supplement it with action. It's like knowing how to make idli vada, right? That the knowledge of how to make idli vada is not going to give you idli vada. You have to supplement the knowledge with action. So that's the argument they generally use, because without action, no benefit can be there. So here, Shankara says, he says, because Brahma Jnanam, the knowledge of Atma, it is not dependent upon the Karta, upon the doer, upon the Pramata. Because Jnanam takes place independent of the Pramata, providing, of course, that the Pramanam is functioning properly. And he says, Jnanam doesn't therefore depend on the Pramata, the knower, the hearer or the seeker of knowledge, but this Jnanam is dependent on the object which is sought to be known, which is being subject to Pramanam. So to illustrate that example, let us take the Pramanam of your eyes. When your eyes are open, what decides what you will see? Do the eyes decide what they will see? Or do the objects in front of you decide what will be seen by the eyes?
The objects, we have no control over what we see.
Okay, so that is a similar argument applied. That knowledge which is being received is not dependent upon the knower, it is dependent upon the object which is sought to be known. This is different from functions of karmendriya, right? In functions of karmendriya, you have total control, because you can decide what the particular indriya should be doing. But in jnanendriyas, the functions are independent of us, the pramata. And for jnanam, therefore jnanam is independent of the pramata. And therefore jnanam and karma belong to two different categories. What are the categories? Jnanam belongs to a category where the jnanam is dependent upon the object sought to be known, and karma is dependent upon the subject, the doer. Jnanam is not dependent upon the knower. Karma is dependent upon the doer, the pramata, if you want to call it in short. And therefore, this jnanam, so Shankara calls it vastu pradhanye, is vastu tantram, depends on the vastu, the object, and not on the subject, while jnanam is not dependent upon the subject, the karta, whereas karma is very much dependent upon the subject. And since they belong to two different categories, he says, how can you combine these two different categories? One where it's dependent upon the karta, and one where it is dependent upon the object sought to be known. Therefore, jnana karma samachaya is not possible. That is a very short argument. His bhashyam goes on forever, but this is a very short argument. Okay. All right. Now, in the discussion, we should also consider jnanam, we said, depends upon only the object. Of course, you have to add it. You will be eligible to get jnanam only if you are sadhana chatushta sampanna, right? and your mind is focused. That is part of sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. So only if the conditions of sadhana chatushtayam is met, then only you're sitting in the class and listening with a focused mind. And we are, of course, assuming that your ears have no problem. Your ears are functional and the mind is behind those ears. Then what will happen? Helplessly, jnanam will take place. It is not dependent upon you. It is dependent upon the teacher because he is teaching. The subject is being taught by the teacher. The words you hear are not in your control. They are in the control of the teacher. And therefore, with a focused mind and a functioning ear, there is no help but to get jnanam if you are sitting in front of the teacher. And therefore, jnanam is not a karma at all. So the question here is, do we all consider ourselves as 100% sadhana chatushtaya sampanna? No. In that case, should I sit in Upanishad class at all? Because if I am not 100% sadhana chatushtaya sampanna, how can I understand the Upanishad? And the answer is that anybody who has an interest can attend the class, Vedanta class, whether he is an adhikari or not an adhikari. Why? For adhikari, the Vedanta class will be a jnana yoga class. What is the result? Jnanam and moksha. For anadhikari, the one who is not an adhikari, the Vedanta class will become part of karma yoga itself, for which there are two possible results. What are the results of karma yoga? Two possible results of karma yoga? I shouldn't be having to ask this question. You should be all knowing this at the tip of your fingers. What are the two possible results of karma yoga?
One is Chitta Shuddhi.
One is Chitta Shuddhi, sadhana chatushtayam. The other one?
Punyam.
The other one is punyam. Punyam. And that punyam can give you the better result, results in terms of swarga, a better life, a higher world, and so on in your next life. Okay. Now, in his commentary, Shankara touches on a very, very important aspect of Vedanta. And he quotes Bhagavad Gita to show that. So he says, Bhagavad Gita says, Naisha Tarkena, not Bhagavad Gita, he quotes this Smriti, Kathopanishad. Naisha Tarkena iti Shrutescha Matirapaneya. Do you remember Kathopanishad, first chapter, second section? What does it mean? Naisha Tarkena means not by logic, not by independent inquiry can this jnanam ever be obtained. So that particular mantra of the Kathopanishad, one, that is the first chapter, second section, 9th mantra. Kathopanishad 1, 2, 9. It says that this jnanam can never be acquired if you are doing your inquiry without a teacher. And then he quotes from Chandogya Upanishad, Acharyavan Purusho Vedaha. The person who has a guru, Acharyavan Purushaha is the person who has a guru, who has Acharya, Veda. He alone will gain the knowledge. And again he quotes from Chandogya again, Acharyadhi eva vidya vidita sadishtham prapat iti. So this is a very beautiful statement. You might get the knowledge by reading the book, but Acharya ki eva vidya. That knowledge which is gained only through the Acharya, sadishtham prapat iti, will become fruitful. Sadishtham will be fruitful. Okay. And of course, there is a Bhagavad Gita support also. What is that? We should know. What is the Bhagavad Gita support for this idea that you have to go to an Acharya?
Chapter 4.
Yes. Chapter 4.
Pariprashnena paripatrena sevaya.
Tadviddi paripatena pariprashnena. Okay, chapter 4, verse number 34. That also we have to remember. So remember that when you are studying Upanishad, you have to first of all be thoroughly familiar with what we have done before. Tattva Bodha, then Bhagavad Gita, and the other Upanishads. And then only you can make these connections. Because these connections will only reinforce our knowledge, because we'll say, okay, it is being said in this Upanishad, it was said in Gita, it was hinted at in Tattva, it was talked about in other Upanishads. And therefore, for us, it becomes stronger. So, by independent inquiry, without support of Shastram, taught by a guru, this Atma knowledge cannot be gained. Now, Shankara also makes one point. Normally, an Upanishad always names the Guru and the Shishya. We saw in Mundaka, we saw in Katho, we saw, and in Kaivalya, we saw that the Guru and Shishya are named. But Kena doesn't. Kena Upanishad doesn't name the teacher or the student. And Shankara doesn't want to let that go. So he says, Kashchit, some student, Brahmanishta Gurum, he has gone to a guru who is Brahmanishta, and we should add Shrotriyam also. What did he do? Vidivat Upetya, he approached the guru in the prescribed manner and did all those things, having done service, asked him questions, all these things he did, and then only the teaching began. So this is the introduction to this particular Upanishad. The introduction, of course, is very long, but I've taken only that little portion which is directly relevant over here. Okay, now we'll go to the first mantra. We will check.
Ravi,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So long back we had discussed how jnanam is not a karma.
Yeah.
And I think in that discussion you had also said that reading, on the other hand, counts as a karma.
Well, you can look at it this way, that if you are looking at a book, your eyes are open. The act of opening the eyes is a karma, but once the eyes are open, what you see is a factor of the book, not of your eyes. That's a modification that you need to do.
So no, why? I mean, the question was related to Shravanam versus Patanam. Shravanam is not a karma.
Yeah, Shravanam is not a karma because your ears are, see, the why we have the doubt is because you can close your eyes, but you can't close your ears. Ultimately, you have to take it as an indriya. Getting the indriya to be functional can be a karma. But once the indriya is functional and the mind is backing up the indriya, what is the function of the indriya is not dictated by the indriya, but it's dictated by what is outside, what the particular object with the indriya is picking up. Same thing
So-
with the eyes.
So then reading is, because reading is a process, a thought process. It's not just perception.
Reading, you see the words, and what takes place in your mind is the same thing which takes place when the words hit your ears. Right? The words hitting your ears trigger certain vrittis in your mind. The words hitting the eyes also trigger certain vrittis in the mind. So to that extent, yes, the eyes are functional, knowledge is not a karma. The process is there, but this is not a karma, certainly not.
Okay.
Okay.
Acharya, I'm sorry, is basically that the result of it is not the karma, but the act of, see, there is free will involved in here, in the sense that I can choose to be sitting and listening or not choose to be sitting and listening. I can be sitting here, but my mind could be somewhere else, intentionally even, not even just unintentionally. So that overall it is a karma, isn't it?
No. Your karma consists of getting the ears to be open, coming and sitting close. All that is karma, getting the ears to be open and making sure that your mind is behind the ear. After that, when the teacher starts talking and you continue the process of concentration, then the words which you hear are not in your hands. They are in the hands of the teacher. Similarly, the words which you read are not in your hands of your eyes, so to say. They are what is there in the book.
Correct. Yes. But
The wandering of the mind, bringing it back is karma. But we are assuming that you are a sadhana chatushtaya sampanna person. Once you sit, your mind is like the flame of the candle, which is in a sheltered place. It doesn't move.
yeah, no, well, this is just a general question for everyone, sadhana chatushtaya or not.
Yeah. So whatever you're listening to need not necessarily be spirituality. Even if you are listening to a physics lecture, what takes place in your mind is not dictated by you. It's dictated by what you're hearing. If you say that I choose not to think, that's a karma. But if your mind is already functional by way of being concentrated behind the ear, then there is no further karma. It's very important, because if you say that hearing is a karma, then you are saying that moksha is generated by a karma. And whatever is generated by a karma is finite. And therefore you have to say that moksha...
So I think, it's not so much the indriya being in contact with the vishaya, not that. It's not the indriya and the vishaya as such out here, but
it
choosing.
is choosing, yes. The moment you say free will, up to the point where you are using the free will, it is karma, which is sitting down, keeping your ears open, keeping the mind concentrated. Beyond that, what vritti is, that akhanda akara vritti which is generated in your mind, that is not by any object of your choosing.
Right.
That is by the words falling on your ears from the teacher. And
so one can think of that as phalam.
The words falling on the ears will automatically generate. That is what it says. The one whose mind is completely focused, he has helplessly he will get jnanam. Acharya says somewhere else, even if you don't want to be a jnani, you will end up being one.
Raviji, I understood about the choice of choosing to sit and listen. That is fine, and understood that the mind has to be focused. That is also fine. Understood how it is not a karma, because the words will fall and helplessly the thoughts that vritti will come and jnanam will come. So that is all fine. My question is only about reading, because I think in that previous discussion, we said that reading counts as a karma. It is not, that is why it is not pathanam, mananam, nididhyasanam. It is shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam. And also that is why Shastra repeatedly tells us it's not about reading. You have to go to a teacher and you have to listen from the teacher.
Well, actually, if you look at the history, when this was started, there were no books. It was the only way of communicating was Shravanam. Books, the written matter came much later. And that is why the word reading is not used.
Right.
So, but the effect of reading is the same. The only thing is when you are reading, if your mind is not focused enough, your other, ideas can cross-link. But then the same thing can happen in Shravanam also. If your mind is full of other ideas, it can pollute the words coming on your ear. So this discussion onwards, we have to be clear that I would rather prefer Shravanam, because for me it's a personal thing also. Like my personal experience is that when I read, my understanding was not clear. It's only when I heard that the understanding became clear. I don't know why, because I read Swamiji's books, Swami Dayanandaji's books, and I was still confused. But when I heard the same talk, there was clarity. So there is something which is unexplainable over there.
True, Acharya.
Shravanam actually, does some job which reading doesn't. I don't know what it is. You should probably try that out. Take one text which you have not read and for which you have the Shravanam, which you have the lecture, Read the text and then listen to the lecture and see if it makes a difference. I wager it will.
No, that is true. Usually, I think reading is better for mananam rather than.
Reading is always better for mananam because you have written the notes, then you just go through them.
Yeah.
But I do know people who use double or triple speed for mananam. Same lecture, but just speed up the whole thing, and then they say that we understand perfectly. I have not tried that out, but I see no reason why it can't work. You do a 3x or 4x, it might work.
Is mananam and nididhyasanam also karma? I mean, nididhyasanam is not. Mananam also should not, but I don't understand how.
Mananam is mental activity, no? You are supposed to mentally pick up something and struggle with it. So if you look at mental activity as karma, yes. For that matter, nididhyasanam is also the same thing. But nididhyasanam, what are you doing actually? You are just recalling what you have heard in Shravanam. So the recall is an activity itself. It's a manasika karma.
At the nididhyasan stage, there should not be this this thought that I am doing something. So there is no karma.
That is, of course, the doership should have gone. But then Meda will say, why should I do? If my doership has gone, who will be doing it? Right, that's also there. See, one thing I'll tell you, it's a big secret, that this business about Jivan Mukta, this business about moksha, these are all for beginners. It's just to keep your enthusiasm going. But really speaking, once you understand you are Brahman, where is the question of Jivan Mukti? Who is getting free? Isn't it? If I am Brahman, where is the question of moksha? I have always been free. I am free. I will continue to be free. Who is it that I am saying is going to be free? If you say the RC is going to be free, then you have not understood that you are Brahman.
Yeah, that's the paradox of it.
That is the paradox. And yet, it is the RC which understands that the OC is I am the OC. So, as long as you are in Vyavahara, remember all teaching also is in Vyavaharika, right? Teaching takes place only in the world of the RCs. In the world of OC, there is no teacher, no student. There is no class either. So these ideas, one needs to, struggle with in nididhyasanam. What will happen is sooner or later, it will stop bothering you. That you will accept that this is the way things are. Why? Because I am Brahman and everything is in me. So what is there to worry about? Once that comes, then only our progress starts to quicken up, basically. Okay, let us go to chapter 1, mantra number 1. We will chant. Keneshitam patati proshitam manaha.
येनेषितं पतति प्रेषितं मनः
Manaha.
It is proshitam, not preshitam, proshitam. Is it type preshitam over there?
No, it is proshitam.
Proshitam. Then kena pranah prathamah praiti yuktaha.
Kena pranah prathamah prayitah
Kene pitam vacham imam vadanti.
Kene
Tam
vacham imam
vacham
vadanti
Chakshushrotram ka udevo yunakti.
Chakshushrotram
devo
devo yunakti.
So look at the words first. Kena, and that's the reason why it's called Kena Upanishad. Kena means by whom. Kena ishitam. So that word is broken into two words. Kena ishitam. By whom will. Patati is false. Proshitam is directed. By who. So what it means is keneshitam patati proshitam manaha, directed by whom does the mind fall on any object? That is the first sentence. Then kena pranaha prathamaha, at first, by whom praiti is proceed to function. Yuktaha means united. So kene shitam vacham imam, these words, by whom, directed by whom are these words vadanti, spoken. Kene shitam vacham vadanti, by whom are these words spoken? Chakshushrotram yunakti, the ears and the eyes are united. Ta udevaho, which divine power has united these two organs. Okay. So by whom does, or directed by whom does the mind fall on an object? How does it proceed to function? United with what? How are these words spoken? By whose power? By the how, and Chakshu and Shrotam the same thing. How do I see? By whose power? How do I hear? By whose power? So Yunakta Tahu Devaha. United with which power do these functions take place? Okay. So this Upanishad has 4 khandas, 4 chapters. It's a very tiny Upanishad, but an extremely powerful one. And it is in the form of a Guru Shishya Samavada. So, as I said before, in this case, the Guru and Shishya names are not given. Therefore, Shankara says some Guru, some Shishya. So, the first mantra indicates that student is not completely raw. And of course, here we have to add Shishyaha Uvacha, the student asked, because the question is a question from the student, the first mantra. And the question, if you look at it, it presumes that the student has certain fundamental ideas. What are they? The physical body is made up of Pancha Mahabhutas, so it is material in nature. Therefore, the student has concluded that the body is Achetanam, Jada. And that is why he says, by whose direction? United with what power? So the first understanding the student has is the physical body is Jada, it is inert. Sthula Shariram, Achetanam, he knows. And the inner body, the Sukshma Shariram, consisting of 17 or 19, whichever it is, he knows that Sukshma Shariram is also made up of matter. Right? Shastra points out that mind is also made up of matter, but more subtle matter, which is almost energy, a very subtle form of matter. And that is why we say that what is matter can be influenced by matter. And therefore, drugs and chemicals can influence the mind, because it is only matter which can influence matter. Therefore, he has concluded that matter by itself, the mind by itself, is also Jadam. So, Sthula Shariram is Jadam, Sukshma Shariram is Jadam, he has concluded. Then, having understood these two things, logically, he has 2 things. The Jada Sthula Shariram and the Jada Sukshma Shariram. And therefore, logically, a combination must also be Jadam. So he is thinking that if the body is inert, physical body is inert, and subtle body is inert, then the body-mind complex should also be inert. But that is not what he experiences. Pratyaksha Pramanam does not give him that experience. The question is, how can something which is naturally inert become sentient? This is a question which has troubled the student. He has thought about it, and therefore he has concluded that since this body-mind combination is insentient, if it appears sentient, then it must have been made sentient by some external factor. This much reasoning he has done. Right? Take an example. Milk by itself is not sweet, but when I drink the milk, I find it sweet. And therefore, what is the conclusion?
Sugar is added.
Sugar has is added.
Sugar has been added. Even though I cannot see the sugar, sugar has been added. And therefore, this student has concluded that there is some invisible principle because of which this inert body-mind complex has become conscious. And the question is, he wants to know what is that principle. So, kena isitam patati roshitam manaha. What is that principle because of which the insentient body and mind complex appears as if it is sentient? And manaha proshitam patati. The mind objectifies the world, converts the world into an object. Patati literally means fall. Okay, but here manaha patati means the mind objectifies the world, proshitam, as though activated by another force. Proshitam is influenced, activated. The mind objectifies the world as if forced to do so through some force, external force. And so he says, Kena isitam, blessed by which principle? Directed by which principle does the mind do that? How does it appear sentient? And he says, Pratamaha prana praiti. Prana, the life principle. All the 5 pranas put together, pancha pranas, are called here Prathama prana, the foremost prana, the predominant prana. It consists of pancha prana. And it's called pancha prana because the life principle is foremost, Prathama. Without the life principle, there is no life. Without prana, there is no life. And that is why here we say Prathama pranaha. That pranaha, which is the very principle of giving life. And kena yuktaha, blessed by which principle, united with which principle does this prana operate? Remember that prana also is pranamaya kosha belonging to sukshma shariram. Then he says, kena isitam imam vacham vadanti. This, the vak indriyam, the tongue, he knows, is part of Stula Shariram. The Indriya is part of Sukshma Shariram. Therefore, both are basically matter. In a dead body also, both the physical tongue is there, but tongue does not move. So there is some principle because of which it is functioning. And you should recall that the vak indriyam is created out of the rajoguna of the akasha tattvam, tattva bodha. So he says, Chakshuhu Srotram Ka U Devo Yunakti. What is that Devaha? What is that principle which, because of which the Chakshuhu and Srotram, the eyes and the ears, they are all blessed, they are all activated. And Chakshuhu Srotram has to be taken as Upalakshanam for all the 17 parts of the Sukshma Shariram. Shankara gives the main meanings, the meanings of the main 2 words. Okay, Ishitam means blessed by, Proshitam or Presitam means commanded by. So actually there are 2 questions here which this student has raised. At whose command, by whose command does the body, mind, sense complex function? And the second one is, blessed by the presence of what principle does the body, mind, senses function? So there are 2 different questions, but remember there is a difference. If you say at whose command does the body, mind, function, sense complex function, then in the first one, in that one, that particular interpretation where the body and mind function because of the command of somebody, the one who commands becomes a karta because he is commanding that something should be done. But in the second one, when you say it is in the presence of the principle that everything functions, it is sannidhi matrena, purely in the presence. And if only the first one, proshitam, is used, there arises the possibility of the presence of a karta, which is why Shankara says the mantra also use ishitam. Proshitam plus ishitam, you have to understand in the sense of ichcha matrena, sannidhi matrena, in the presence of blessed by. And the entire answer to this question is spread over the Upanishad, which Acharya is going to give. And here a Purva steps in. He says, this Purva says that it is very well known that the mind moves independently towards objects. How? It's our experience. We don't have to make the mind move towards ice cream. It automatically moves. So why assume a controller or director? There is an obvious answer to this. When the Purva says the mind moves, why should you assume a controller or director? What is the answer? It's a very obvious answer. Mind cannot move because
It's Jada.
mind is
It's
Jada.
Jada.
The first answer is not given here, is that the mind is Jada, and therefore if a Jada object is moving towards something, obviously there is something which is making it move, controlling it. But Shankara gives another answer. He says, pravritti nivritti vishaya syat. If the mind is independent, as you say, then it has the freedom to entertain some thoughts and withdraw from some other thoughts. And if you give that interpretation, then what will happen? For all people, sarvasya, there will never be any negative thoughts, no fear, no worry, nothing, because you are saying mind is independent and it has the freedom to entertain the thoughts which it wants and withdraw from other thoughts. And if that were so, nobody would ever have problems, because they would just withdraw from all negative thoughts and entertain only positive thoughts. But in reality, he says, anartha janan sankalpayati. In reality, every person is subject to disturbing thoughts, even though they fully know that these thoughts are anartham, not good for the peace of the mind. And yet, under the helpless influence of those thoughts, a person engages in karma, which will immediately bring in sorrow, smoking, drinking, gambling. And even though he knows this, the mind continues to have the same thoughts. And therefore Shankara says, you must remember, the mind is not independent. There is some other force controlling the mind at all times. With this, we'll stop. Any questions? This is only the question, so no explanation has come. That will come in the next mantra, which we will do in the next class.
Om Raviji, Isitam means exactly what?
Blessed by. So you have to take a sannidhi matrena, in the presence
right.
of.
Right.
Like the fan moves in the presence of electricity.
Electricity. Right.
Electricity doesn't do anything. The nature of the
Yes.
fan is that it will move when it is in the presence of electricity.
Right.
So that's the correct explanation. The mind will move when it is in the presence of Atma.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. And don't think it is, the rest of the classes will be so simple. There's a lot of, what they call headaches to come as yet. So with this, I'll stop for today. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Acharya.